Guys, we are back with another episode of the Can Church Be Healthy podcast. I'm John Shirley, a pastor here in Kansas City, and I'm sitting with my good friend Tom Page, who is a therapist here in Kansas City as well. And we are together from our respective fields getting curious about this experience that we call the church. We both love the church very much. And we are asking questions about the fruit that it is currently producing, especially here in the western part of the world. Tom, welcome, man.
Thank you, man. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you again. In our last episode, we were introducing this field of study called internal family systems. You did an incredible job of describing what internal family systems is. You told us some pretty phenomenal stories, or a phenomenal story, man. Thank you for that, for the vulnerability of that story. I really appreciate that. And as we were recording that podcast, I just was aware that this has bigger applications. I think I really want to talk about the systems of the church and make some reflections on what we see happening in the life of the church right now at large, and how this simple tool, internal family systems, could help some leaders, I think predominantly I'm thinking about the men, but also the men and women who are in the role of pastor, as I am in life. And here's the thing. I notice, and you notice, this seems to be happening every day, that pastors are falling like planes out of the sky. It seems like every other day there is some headline, some pastor somewhere who has had a major moral failure, and this is becoming just way too frequent.
Yeah, and almost 100% men too.
Almost 100% men. And so I guess I'm thinking about this because, again, this morning, woke up to a headline. A local pastor here in Kansas City, same thing. Same, moral failure, leading a huge church here in town. And, you just start asking what in the world is going on. And I'm going to take a stab at what I think is going on. I have a lot of anxiety about this. You know that. You know that when these headlines come across, the news feed, I again, we're talking about my anxiety, right? It's one of the things that makes anxiety move to the front of the bus, right, in my life. And so I'm asking why. And it's because that whole thing makes me feel really vulnerable. It seems like there is an assignment nearly on the person in a pastoral role in America right now. I don't know how real that is, but it feels like that to me. And what do I know? I know that these men, again, we're talking about men particularly, because I know some. I know actually a handful of leaders who have been sidelined by a moral failure. And every one of them loves God sincerely in their life. Like every one of them in their heart, legitimately, sincerely loves Jesus with a deep passion, but something else was going on.
And there was also a severe lack of self-awareness in some aspect.
Yeah. That's right. So what's true? They love God, and then they had these really active parts, right?
Yeah.
And they did likely not have a way to interact with these dynamics going on inside them.
Yeah, they come into the role, maybe honestly with a lot of love and conviction, but then they have in their own story trauma.
Yes.
That then you put that through the pressure cooker of what it means to be a pastor, and this is not to justify their behavior at all. They're 100% responsible for what they do. This is not a great recipe for anybody. And so like having skills to learn how to tend to your inner world is actually a protective factor for the larger community.
Yeah, absolutely. It very much is. And I think that's what I want to speak to. And we have no script here today. We're just sort of like going
roll with
for
it
it right now.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, so that I was on sabbatical a year ago today. Yeah. And one of the things that I pondered while I was on sabbatical was how healthy my vocation can be.
Okay, say more about that. What do you mean?
In 2024 and 2025. In this cultural moment. Yeah, man, it is a hard vocation to navigate. So, we serve in a role that really expects us to be all things to all people, I think. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in my own, I just think about it like, there's the CEO personality of a pastor. There's a teacher theologian, right? There's the carer, the one who's going to be bedside when you're in the hospital. In a lot of context, they need to be the web guy, the video guy, the sound guy. They need to be a therapist, actually. Because a lot of people are engaging people like you in therapeutic fields, and then they come back to the church and they expect their pastor to be that person, that play that role in their lives. And so when you really look at it, I think maybe even differently than even 30, 40 years ago, the expectations that are on pastors right now, social commentator, political advocate. There's a rogue, random, weird one.
Yeah, but it's a thing.
Yeah, very much so. Wisdom guru. I mean, you name it. It's like, it's a lot of expectation. So it's kind of a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
And, I just had this experience when I was on sabbatical where I just felt when I was really able to step back, and consider this vocation, I felt very vulnerable. Not only because of the spiritual realities that I do believe are very at play. For all of us that are like, hey, I'm going to set my mind on, like encouraging building up the kingdom of God on the earth, and I'm going to do that with my whole family. That is a vulnerable reality, I think, even spiritually speaking, because I do believe that there is a force that doesn't want that to be manifested on the earth, right? So in many ways, there's kind of a sign on your back kind of thing, but then there's also systems that we work in that don't always enable us to be honest.
Yeah, talk more about that.
Yeah, I just don't know of many churches that are setting up pathways for their leadership to step forward when they blow it. Or maybe it's not even just like a full-on blow it. Like you and I talk a lot about vices. Like, what about just a human vice? Where does a pastor go?
Like before it becomes crisis.
Before it becomes critical, before it becomes a massive problem, where does a pastor of a megachurch go where the stakes aren't so high that they can just talk about their real life and their real heart without feeling like just stepping forward is going to cost them something very significant, So what happens? We have a system that is built for crisis, right? Because we expect the world out of people, and then we offer them no safe place to come, to ask for help when they need it. Now, what is really true? We know that, like in a lot of these stories, there are a lot of men who are actual narcissists, who are exhibiting predatory behavior, who are hurting a lot of people. So we are in no way here today trying to soften the reality of all of that. what I want to advocate for and urge specifically, again, we're talking to the brothers who are leading out there, because, it seems to be us, men, who are really falling out of the sky, over and over and over again. So we need tools to help us get in touch with the stuff that's not working in our heart.
Yeah. And even with parts work in the last episode, and even a part that's extreme is they're trying to meet a real need.
Yes.
And so, I don't know any culture or even really have fully tipped into a more healthy way, but when has it been okay for men to have feelings, to have needs, to be tender, to be soft? Like this is the church is embedded in a much larger culture,
yes.
and we pretend like we're not of the world or we're different. No, we're like in it, and so then it manifests in our communities for men as well. And like we gotta find space for men to be able to be real and authentic and intimate.
Yeah.
And historically, that's just not what our larger culture has been doing, nor have we found a way to help men do that in our micro cultures in our churches.
Yeah, that's right. And so if I was on an elder team, and I just want to say about my own culture here, I just want to say about my own world here. I'm doing everything that I possibly can to build a culture where we can be known. And if I'm experiencing any hesitance, we talked about this morning.
Yeah.
I came in this morning, telling you, this is, I guess, me kind of coming on the vulnerable end, but me telling you that I know that any hesitance that I have in my experience of being vulnerable really has a lot to do with me at this point, that I have lost the ability to learn how to be vulnerable with people. And I think that is probably true of a lot of different men in this vocation. There is a skill related to being vulnerable. You have to be able to trust that when you can step forward and be vulnerable, that's going to be met with kindness and grace and help if help is needed, right?
And that if you don't get it, you'll be okay.
Don't get what?
If it's because we can't guarantee that at any given time the people we're being vulnerable with are going to respond well. Mm-hmm. Now there's some discernment in choosing who we go to.
Yep.
But there's also a skill in going, even if in my heart of hearts, I really honestly put myself out there and it doesn't land, I will be okay.
Yeah. And
I will find another way, and I won't react or shut down. I will stay my true self. I'll feel the pain of it. Mm-hmm. I won't hide from the disappointment or the hurt. I'll deal with it, and I'll find another way to move forward in health.
To get the help I need.
Yeah.
And I think that was a huge question that I was asking on sabbatical, was, again, back to up in and out, right? And on a piece of paper, I sketched up and out. What do I need as a leader to lead in what feel to me as like pretty impossible circumstances?
Expectations are impossible.
Yeah.
For teachers, police officers, pastors, be everything to everybody.
That's right.
It can't be done.
That's right. Yeah. And I have this experience regularly where some benign word that I said in a sermon triggered somebody, and I just started to realize that I am having this very hyper-vigilant experience as a pastor where I'm trying to button up all my words and all of my metaphors and all my stories so that I don't trigger that person or I don't do this or I don't offend. It's like, man, I cannot live my life that way, right? That in itself is just too much for a human being to manage. I just have to step forward and I have to lead confidently. And, I really saw in Jesus this beautiful reality that in one of the things that I observed about him when I was on sabbatical was that he did not manage relational outcomes. Jesus led from his true self, and his true self disturbed a lot of people. Yeah. He was a very differentiated person, a very prophetic and differentiated person. And in stepping forward as his true self with that unction of the Spirit of God in him, it disturbed the status quo relentlessly, and he seemed fine.
Yeah.
It's one of the most praiseworthy things that I see about him. That wasn't true of my own experiences. So again, going back into this world of IFS and talking to my parts and trying to figure out what is talking to what so that I can step forward more confidently the way that Jesus did in this time. But I came out of sabbatical going, okay, from this up in and out little triangle, I need help, preemptive help, proactive help. And from an up category of my life, I need a spiritual director. I need somebody who's in front of me, guiding me and helping me kind of live more, just keeping my heart alive in Christ, right? In my soul work, right? What you and I would say is our thoughts, feelings, choices. I need a pro and some friends to help me really do this work that we're talking about, right? And then thirdly, like my body, I need somebody or something, someplace, something helping me keep my fitness game up, my nutrition and my fitness game.
Yep.
And just going, okay, all of these can't be the same person. So as a leader, I need to take my health, my growth, my transformation seriously, and I need guides in these 3 departments. And so the IFS world became very helpful for me because it helped me find the kind of things that I need to talk to a spiritual director or a therapist.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
About.
Help you kind of mine it out and name it.
Yes. Before it, stuff grows and becomes a thing, right? Becomes a thing that I can't control in my life. So, here's I guess we're just spontaneously riffing on this episode, but I would say, hey, if you're an elder of a church and you're asking, how can you help? What's the greatest insurance policy you could possibly build for your church? It would be urge the person at the front. If they are not a narcissist and they will hear you, urge them, help them, budget for them to get the kind of help that I'm talking about today. Help them get the kind of support that they need. It would be the greatest insurance policy that you could have. The greatest insurance policy that the Gathering Network has is they send me away on a sabbatical every 5 years. Every 5 years, 3 months off. I think that one thing alone is that's the kind of work that is going to help, people in my vocation get in touch with what is really going on in their mind and heart. What are your thoughts on all this? Hey everybody, I want to take just a second very quickly to let you know about a couple of things that Tom is doing. First of all, every Monday, Tom sends out an email that he calls Transformation Tips to everybody that has signed up for this email. And I've got to tell you, it is full of wisdom and practical advice on how to experience greater transformation in your life. And, like me, you guys are experiencing Tom's wisdom week after week here on this podcast. And so I would just suggest that you go to pagecounseling.com/tips, pagecounseling.com/tips to get on that email list. And then secondly, if you would like to work with Tom as a client and you are in the Kansas City metro area, go to pagecounseling.com and simply let Tom know that you would like to work with him and get in that pipeline with him. If you'd like to work with Tom virtually, you can do so if you live in the state of Kansas. Also, you can go to pagecounseling.com to learn more about how to work with Tom virtually. But you guys, that's what I have for you. And I just suggest that you guys get in there and get as much of Tom's wisdom as you possibly can. What a gift he is to us. What are your thoughts on all this that I'm saying, that I'm talking about right now, man?
No, I mean, I think all of, anybody who is in a service
Or
role.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, kind of come at it a different way. In your practice, in your therapy practice, do you see people who are in pastoral vocations?
Yeah.
Okay. Do all of them have the help and support that they need from their churches?
Almost never.
Almost never. Okay. So, what is your professional reflection on that reality?
It's just sad.
Yeah.
That's my, I guess, personal reflection on it.
Yeah.
That there are not typically systems or just an awareness. I mean, I work with a lot of people who mean well. Like they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to cause damage. And yet, whether they're, pastors or, elders or lay help in the church, a lot of people that I work with are involved in the church at some level. I just have massive gaps in their personal awareness, their connection to other people, like men in particular. This is just a culture thing. Are massively lonely. Like just a number of people where like, and we talk about this because we're pretty open, but like just how rare it is to be able to have like a soul level kind of friend. Like you can just say whatever. You're not going to be judged. You're not going to be like, oh my gosh, let's just like, here's what's really going on in my heart and mind. I need somebody to know it. We're so isolated. And part of that, there's lots of reasons for that. I'm not gonna, I'm not probably a societal expert on all of the reasons why we're isolated, but isolation leads to death, mind, body, and soul. And so if an infant is born and you take it and you just leave it to itself, it doesn't last very long. It needs other people, and that's what we call attachment. And we need that for the duration of our life to be as healthy, grounded, and to reach our potential. We don't exist in a vacuum. And I think all people need that, especially our leaders. I mean, for anyone, and I'll give props to you at this because I want to do it publicly, that leading from a place of vulnerability is so upstream. That takes massive courage. But to me, that is the way of Christ. He didn't come in guns blaring. He served, he suffered, and he died. And he showed us that God's power is made perfect in weakness. And he did it with people, imperfect people. So we don't need to be perfect, but we do need, I think, systemically, since that's the beginning of this conversation, like if we want to, and part of the reason we're doing this whole podcast is, I think, how can we continue to help the church at large, whatever your version of church is, be just safe and good.
Safe and good.
Safe and good. It will absolutely require that the leadership have places to be known, that they have self-care, and that there's systems of that. In my world, we would call that trauma-informed practice.
Right.
And so that would go through the organization, and that you'd have a lens of what is trauma, how does it affect people, and if we're not mindful of it, most likely people will react and adapt to their trauma in each other, in the larger system, and we just tend to know what that looks like.
Yeah, safe and good. And I think about like what it means for some of the systems of the church to actually be safe and good for the people that are leading them.
Yeah.
Because I think we have to basically look at the fruit that is being produced right now. And again, every other day, there's some kind of fruit coming off the vine of this thing that is moral failure, Yeah. And, so again, I was asking you this question about family systems, therapy in between these episodes that we're recording. And I asked you if you'd ever heard the term identified patient. I don't know which author it was. There's a book, an incredible book by Dr. Friedman, A Failure of Nerve. I think he's the one that used this term. It could have been Steve Cuss in Managing Leadership Anxiety. Both of these incredible resources, you guys go get them. But someone used the phrase identified patient, and that in relational systems, be it a family, in our context, a house church, a church staff, could be an entire church itself. Any place where there are relationships, those are a system, and they're not similar to the one beside them. They're unique. And what we tend to do is when problems arise, we tend to find an identified patient, meaning the problem person, okay? So something happened, and we go, oh, they're the problem, right? And so what's happening right now in churches, whenever a pastor falls, they become the identified patient, right? And family systems would say, hey, let's not minimize the harm that they've done or the problem that is around them. Let's not minimize that. But let's look at how the system itself is contributing to what's happening around that person, okay? Because there are multiple things at play that are creating what we're getting out of this whole thing, okay?
Yep.
And so, I mean, like in my house church, for example, if it just so happened that somebody behaved badly, right? And when they were behaving badly, that created a lot of anxiety in the group, right? Well, what our human nature wants to do is say, well, we got to remove them from the group, okay? Rather than the group go, hey, hold up.
You're exiling them.
Yeah, that's right. And instead, what if the group then was like, hey, let's talk about how we're all either enabling that behavior, effectively that, like how we're enabling that, this outcome to happen. So the system itself begins to go, let's look at us and not just them.
Yeah.
Right? Let's look at us. And so I'm doing this podcast because I care about that. I care that churches, again, if the bar is good, right? If the bar is good, can we be good? Can we get some practices in the thing that help the systems look at themselves and go, what fruit are we producing?
Yeah.
And it can't be perfection, right? Can't be that we're after perfection, but can it be good? Can it be better than we've been in the past?
Yeah.
And I think that's a question I'm asking myself. Can I be better than I've been in the past? I mean, I know that there's probably people that are listening to this podcast. I would not doubt it. I don't know if there are. I'm doing the very best I can to do retroactive work. I'm going to the people that I believe that I've hurt, and if they'll listen to me and if they'll be with me, I'm trying to be like, hey, I just want you to know that if I've learned things and I would do that differently than back in the day, but I know that at this point in my leadership, I know that I've hurt people, that's an inevitability. I know for sure that I have. So it's not about like, I don't think being perfect, by the way, if that's you, I care about repair with you. Let me just take this moment and say, I care about repair with you. And I would hear you and want to hear you and would want to care and tend for your heart. But I'm trying to ask this question: how can we, as church systems, begin to bear a different kind of fruit, a better fruit? And we have to think very deeply about what we are producing without blame. We all have to take some responsibility for the kind of place that we are. And then there's also, I think in Failure of Nerve, Friedman, the whole book about failure of nerve is like, there's something that happens when somebody in the system steps forward and begins to do healthy things. It can freak the system out.
Yep.
It can throw the system into a panic because somebody steps forward and they're like, actually, no, we're not doing this really well, So a healthy person getting healthy in an unhealthy system can really disturb the status quo in that system.
And then that system can actually become more reactive in an unhealthy way.
Yeah, that's right. So, I don't really know where to go from here. This is a plea. This episode, we're just going to title it The Great Plea.
The Great Plea.
Yeah, The Great Plea.
One thing I'd say, if you find yourself in a church that you love, like the relationships, the people, and yet the systems in it you find are not healthy, I just want to encourage you that considering to show up as your best self, like with this, what we talked about in IFS with compassion, curiosity, calm, clarity, courage, connectedness, confidence, creativity, and that sometimes maybe speaking truth in love. We tend to either speak love and kind of brush things under the surface, or placate and caretake, or we take a position of power and we're going to speak truth. Yeah. You see this everywhere. It is a Christ-like skill, an evolved consciousness to be able to come with love and truth. And that is not for the faint of heart.
That's right.
And so if you're contemplating at all how to engage this differently, I just want to say, bless you, this was one rare, and it is not for the faint of heart. And I don't know that we have all of the answers. Maybe we'll have it all figured out by the end of this podcast.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I agree, man, because we talk a lot about cancel culture here, just because it's so socially, it's like a virtue in our culture right now. However, it's not what we do in the kingdom of God. We don't cancel one another in the kingdom of God. What do? We speak the truth in love in the kingdom of God, but we also don't know how to do that really well. That was a whole thing for us. We were like, okay, it's time for us as a church to learn how to do more mature and adult relational things, like telling each other the truth. Yeah. That was, I think, how this whole thing actually started for us. And, there are ways to grow into the things that are more healthy. But yeah, I would say that if you're in a church just like Tom, and you're like, hey, my church is, whatever your opinion of it is, not healthy, not helping, whatever. We used to tell leaders a lot, like, you might not be in a role where you could change your system, but you could change your life. Yeah. You might not be in a place where you could change your system, but you could change your life. Yeah.
Do your work.
Do your work. And sometimes the best critique is, what is that phrase? Like I don't remember, something like the best critique is a better outcome or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's another phrase I'm thinking of is like the best revenge is to not be like your enemies.
Yeah.
But I don't like the word enemies in that. Like we're not enemies. But like, yeah, it's just be different.
Yeah.
And people will feel it. They'll experience it. Yeah. And people will gravitate towards you because you'll feel safe.
That's right. Yeah. What we're not trying to do, even in this podcast, is kind of like arm all of those, and this is me included, those of us who kind of are on the more prophetic end of things, to just light a fire in you and just all guns blazing go into your next staff meeting and tell them everything is wrong. That's not what we're advocating for. We are advocating for a slow season of intercession, pleading before God. You get your work going. Get in touch with your stuff. And I am just pleading with all of the teams out there and the leaders that can change systems to get in touch with what is going on in your real life and to get the help that you need. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. You guys, thank you so much for dropping in today. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us at gatheringnetwork.org/healthychurchpodcast. It always means so much if you will rate and review the podcast any place where you happen to stream. Credits for today's episode are podcast writers are myself, John Shirley, and Tom Page. Sound design and editing, John Shirley. Show intro music, Light Up the Night by Brasco, advertisement _track, Well Enough, Alone by Reveal, Holding Space _track, Threads by Acreage, and all of these have been licensed through Soundstripe. Once again, we thank you so much for giving us your time today. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.